Blessings everyone, and thanks for having me. When I was asked to speak about resilience, I immediately began thinking about all the words we often associate with it: strength, determination, perseverance, community, hope. But the truth is, resilience is not something I learned from a book. It is something I have lived. When I returned to 17 Milepost after Hurricane Melissa, I didn't recognize it. What had once been vibrant, colorful, and full of life was covered in mud. The beautiful landscape I knew so well had changed. The buildings were damaged, the farm was devastated, electrical wires hung everywhere. What was once bright and welcoming felt broken. I remember standing there looking around and wondering where to even begin. And perhaps more painfully, I remember thinking, no daddy to help get it together. Because if there was one person who always knew how to move forward, it was my daddy, Michael Fox. And yet, as I stand here today, I realize that resilience didn't begin with Hurricane Melissa. The hurricane was simply the latest chapter. The story began many years earlier. My father purchased 17 Milepost before I was born. My parents divorced when I was very young. I lived in Kingston with my mom, but my aunt would occasionally take me to visit my dad. Over the years, that property became part of who I am. Not because of the business, not because of the success, but because it was a special space. A place where people gathered, a place where stories were told, a place where food was shared, a place where strangers became friends, a place where everyone was welcome. Hospitality wasn't something my father did. Hospitality was who he was. He had an incredible gift for bringing people together. If he met you today, there was a good chance you'd be having lunch with him tomorrow. Actually, if we're being honest, you might be having lunch with him the same day. And what started as a simple meal could easily turn into a 5-hour experience full of cooking, storytelling, laughing, and a few drinks along the way. My father never believed in rushing people. He believed in enjoying people. And somewhere along the way, that became part of me too. I always knew I wanted to join my father and expand the business. While many of my friends were applying to universities, I already knew I wanted to study hospitality and tourism. Most importantly, I wanted to come home and build something with my father, which meant for me sharing my beautiful island with others and entertaining people in a special space. I studied hospitality and tourism at George Brown College in Toronto before returning to Jamaica to complete my bachelor's degree in hospitality and tourism management. Along the way, I worked in hotels, guest services, tourism, luxury villas, the airport, events, and marketing. Every experience taught me something and also confirmed something. This was my calling. During the early stages of building EITS, I was fortunate to be accepted into the first cohort of the Branson Center for Entrepreneurship. It challenged me to think differently and helped me to build a formal business plan for a dream that had mostly lived in my heart. Through that experience, I had the opportunity to meet Sir Richard Branson, and years later, through a mutual friend, I received a personal message of encouragement from him.
Hi Robin, I just wanted to say it's been a long time, but it's congratulations on EITS and keep smiling.
Moments like these reminded me that people often believe in us long before we fully believe in ourselves. I loved creating spaces where people could gather, relax, laugh, celebrate, and create memories. That feeling never left me. When I eventually joined my father full-time, we began building something special together. Mount Edge Guest House and Food Basket Farm expanded, and we created EITS Café, Europe in the summer. Inspired by Jamaica, inspired by Europe, inspired by my father's years living in France, inspired by food, culture, music, and community. What started as a small idea slowly grew into something much bigger. Guests arrived from around the world. We hosted events, cooking classes, farm tours, and dining experiences. The dream was becoming a reality. Then in 2019, everything changed. A fire destroyed the original house, the house where it all began. The house filled with memories, the house filled with art by prominent and intuitive artists, including beautiful wooden furniture. The house where music was played, whether it be the antique grand piano, drums, and a range of musical instruments. The house where photo shoots were done and videos were filmed. The house where artists came to create, to write music, and simply be. Over the years, it welcomed so many special moments, including music videos by Janine, Calissa, Coffee, and Rohan Marley's Taste of Marley, to name a few. The antique grand piano, drums, and artwork gave the space a creative energy that was hard to describe. It wasn't just a house, it was a living part of Jamaica's cultural landscape. The house where countless people had gathered over the years. Watching it burn was heartbreaking. It felt as though a part of our history disappeared overnight. I remember thinking there was no way we could continue. The next day we had guests scheduled. I assumed we would cancel. Surely no one expected us to operate after such a loss. But not my father. With very little sleep, by sunrise he had a cleanup crew. The kitchen staff were cooking, the team was working, and somehow, before I knew it, we were serving lunch. I remember standing there thinking, how is this possible? How can we be open today? My father simply believed that life goes on. He always said there's a solution. He never accepted defeat, and he never liked the word no. That day taught me one of my greatest lessons about resilience. Resilience isn't pretending something doesn't hurt. Resilience is acknowledging the pain and continuing anyway. The phoenix rises from the ashes. In the moments, I didn't realize how many times I would need that lesson. Even after the fire, I refused to stop dreaming. The space where the house once stood became a stage of sorts. It became home to events like Let's Play Acoustic with Sharita, Mortimer, Choir, and Bella, and later our own Music in the Mountains, where Luciana performed in honor of the start to a musical acoustic series on my father's birthday. Every event reminded me that dreams and resilience go hand in hand. The house may have been gone, but the spirit of the space remained alive. Then came an even greater loss. In November 2021, I lost my father. Nothing prepares you for losing a parent. Nothing prepares you for losing your business partner. Nothing prepares you for losing the person who helped shape your world. For me, it changed everything. The sadness was overwhelming. The questions were endless. How do I continue? How do I carry this forward? How do I do this without him? And yet, through the grief, one thought remained constant. I wanted to make him proud. Anyone who knew my daddy knew he pushed me constantly. He challenged me constantly. Sometimes I thought I would never quite meet his expectations. But looking back now, I understand something different. The reason he pushed me so hard was because he believed I was capable of more. One of the greatest lessons he taught me was simple: never say no. There is always a solution, and treat everyone the same. Whether someone arrived in a luxury vehicle or just walked through the gate, they deserve the same welcome, the same hospitality, and the same respect. That lesson remains at the heart of 17 Milepost today. After losing him, I learned another lesson. Resilience is not the absence of grief. Resilience is learning that grief and purpose can coexist. You can cry and continue. You can hurt and continue. You can miss someone every single day and still move forward. And so did I, one step at a time, continuing the work we started together, continuing the dream that we built together. Then Hurricane Melissa arrived, and once again life tested me. Except this time there was no daddy organizing the cleanup crew. No daddy calling my name 500 times for the day. No daddy making sure everyone was working. No daddy drinking rum and telling stories and jokes. This time it was me. The hurricane hit while I was away. When I returned almost 2 weeks later, the devastation was overwhelming. The first image that stays with me is seeing a place that had always been colorful, bright, and full of nature, now covered in mud. It felt as though the soul had been washed away. There was flooding, land slippage, damaged roofs, destroyed electrical systems, damaged farm areas, months of work ahead. The emotional low point came when I realized the extent of the electrical damage. The figures were overwhelming and the savings were almost non-existent. And for the first time, I truly wondered, how am I going to do this? There were days I walked around crying, days I stood in rubber boots wondering where to begin, days when everything felt impossible. But then something beautiful happened. People showed up. My staff showed up. Friends showed up. Family showed up, especially my mother and my aunt. Customers showed up. Past guests from around the world showed up. People called to check in, many donated and encouraged me. People reminded me why EITS mattered, sharing stories about special moments, anniversaries, birthdays, family gatherings, photo shoots, music videos, moments they had experienced at 17 Milepost that meant a lot and they always remembered. They reminded me that this place mattered not only to me, it mattered to them too. In that moment, I realized I wasn't rebuilding alone. That gave me hope. One of the greatest lessons Hurricane Melissa taught me is that resilience is rarely a solo act. Resilience sometimes means asking for help. Resilience sometimes means accepting help. Sometimes resilience looks like community. Little by little, we rebuilt. We started with the kitchen, then the roofs, then the dining spaces, then the electricals. Every completed task felt like a victory. Every challenge solved gave me new hope. Along the way, I learned skills I never imagined I would need. Plumbing, lock-offs, couplings, elbows, tangent, pipe fittings, words I had heard for years but never truly understood. Then the electricals, the big fair which I followed upon every day, understanding the new and efficient ways, the names of the wires, the rewiring procedure, building a new meter pole, and what was entailed. This was all included with many trips to the electrical store. Construction, type of roof, nails, building tips for building better, the tools and materials, and many trips to the hardware and paint shop. The trips to the supermarket, seaside, countryside, and market were put on hold. Project management. I began understanding many of the things my father quietly handled for years, and in doing so, I gained a whole new appreciation for him. I also gained a whole new appreciation for myself. There were many days when no one was there to push me out of bed, no one telling me what needed to be done. Resilience became self-motivation. It became choosing to get up, show up and continue even when progress felt slow. Meditation, time by the sea, sound healing, prayer, and simply sitting quietly with my thoughts became important practices that helped me stay grounded through one of the hardest seasons of my life. For much of my life, resilience looked like following my father's lead. After Hurricane Melissa, resilience became trusting my own. There was no one telling me what to do next, no one making the final decision, no one carrying the responsibility. The decisions were mine, the mistakes were mine, the victories were mine. And somewhere in those months of rebuilding, I stopped asking myself whether I could do it and started asking myself what needed to be done next. There were also moments of creativity. One project especially stands out. For years, I had spoken to my father about creating mosaic steps. The steps I wanted to mosaic were among the first things he built on the property. The project always seemed too big, time-consuming, and ambitious. But after the hurricane, I finally did it. One tile at a time. Some days I felt like giving up, but every day I came back, and eventually it was finished. Sometimes resilience looks like rebuilding a business. Sometimes resilience looks like placing one tile at a time until a dream becomes reality. Then came May 10, Mother's Day, our reopening. The music returned, the laughter returned, the staff returned, guests returned, the energy returned. And for the first time in months, EITS felt alive again. That night, after everyone went home, I cried. I cried because I was relieved, exhausted, and we had done it. I cried because I missed my father. More than anything, I wished he could have been there. I can already imagine what he would have been doing. He would have hugged me good morning, and no matter how early it was a special day, so it was time for drinking, chatting, and entertaining everyone. He would have been calling my name every few minutes, making sure I stayed busy, and he would have been in his element, making sure people were having a good time and absolutely loving every second of it. 2 weeks after reopening, I had a dream I will never forget. In the dream, I was walking up the mosaic steps and Dad was walking down. He told me he was leaving for a few days, but he'd be staying away a little longer than usual. He looked at me and said, "I know you can hold the fort, you've got this." When I woke up, I cried, and then I smiled, because for the first time, I felt that perhaps the approval I had spent years searching for had finally arrived. Today, when I think about resilience, my understanding has changed. Before the fire, I thought resilience was about staying strong. After losing my father, I learned resilience was about carrying heartbreak while continuing forward. After Melissa, I learned resilience is about rebuilding better, and never giving up. It was about beginning again and again and again. No matter how many times life asks you to start over. To everyone here, I want to leave you with this. There will be setbacks, losses, moments when you question everything, and days when the road ahead seems impossibly long. But there will also be community, purpose, and hope. And sometimes after the storm, something beautiful is waiting on the other side. Moments that create chapters with teachings of gratitude, humility, courage, the value of asking for help, and that grief and resilience can coexist. Most importantly, chapters that remind me that no matter what happens, we always have the ability to keep strong and keep pushing on, even if it's a little slower and one step at a time. Thank you.